What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Wild Tuesday afternoon in the NFL today. Everybody was trimming their rosters down to their 53s. The Jonathan Taylor news, we thought he was going to be traded for a good hour there. He did not get traded. He's left on the PUP list, which is quite surprising. He's going to be out for the first 4 games. We'll get to that when we go over the Colts. And then I was just looking at the New England Patriots and what they cut, like Bailey Zappi and a bunch of running backs and a bunch of other players today. They literally have 2 running backs on the roster. So I'm probably going to be moving Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott up just a little bit. But what we're going to do, we're going to hop into a screen share here. If you guys want to chime in, throughout the video, but I'd prefer to just kind of knock out as many takes as I can and get you guys set up for your drafts the rest of the week and for Labor Day weekend. I'm not going to be able to make any more content other than tomorrow night, which we'll be doing our live drafts on ESPN and Yahoo. So we're going to hop right into it, guys. We're going to start with the AFC North. As far as the Ravens are concerned, I'm drafting Lamar Jackson. I think he's a top 5 quarterback. We're into him for sure. I don't really need to tell you anything more than I like him. I think he's, quarterback 4, 5, 6 off the board. If he dips into the end of the 4th, sometimes 5th round, I'm taking Lamar. We're excited about this Ravens offense for sure. I think J.K. Dobbins is on my list as one of those running back 2s that I like quite a bit. Melvin Gordon got cut today, and I'm actually watching Justice Hill to see if he's the running back 2 here. I think there's some opportunity for Hill as a receiver, and who knows, he might have a little bit more, a little bit more upside than a Gus Edwards. So to me, it's Dobbins. The receiver that I want is Zay Flowers. I'm not very interested in Odell Beckham. I just pass on him. He's just an older receiver that I'm not super excited about. I am curious about Rashad Bateman, though. I don't mind putting Rashad Bateman on the end of my bench because we know he's a big play guy. It's really just his health that's a question mark. So you can see I got 4 green guys here on the Ravens. I'm into them. I think you guys should be too. Zay Flowers is one of those really fun rookie wide receiver picks that I think you guys should be excited about. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. I think first and foremost, it's all about Nick Chubb here. He's the straw that stirs the entire drink. I think he's going to be probably the guy that leads the league in rushing yards this year. He's really fun and exciting, and I think he's worth, in your redraft leagues, he's probably worth a first-round pick. If you get him round 2, that's great as well. He's just an anchor running back. You're not going to have to worry about him at all. I think Deshaun Watson is fine as, a quarterback 1. I'm not super excited about him, but I'll take him if he falls. I still don't know who the RB2 is here. I think they might sign somebody. Actually, they did go and bring in Pierre. They traded for Pierre Strong Jr. the other day from the Patriots. So the Patriots just clean house with their running back room. But we're watching for RB2 here. I don't know if we need to draft Jerome Ford. Amari Cooper is a fine target here. I don't draft him a lot. I think he's a solid wide receiver, too, that I would prefer him to be my wide receiver 3 in my fantasy lineup. I do take stabs on Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think they're both going to be on the field a lot. You're going to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets with these guys. Both guys that are probably on your bench. Honestly, I don't think I want them starting in my lineup as my wide receiver 3. If you're in a league where you start 3 receivers in a flex, I suppose he could be, RB or wide receiver 4. I think that does make sense. But for sure, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones are on my list. And then if you need a tight end at some point, I think David Njoku is going to be a favorite target of Deshaun Watson this season. Nobody else to really note on the bench here for Cleveland, so we'll keep it moving and go over to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, man, this is a good one. We're going to highlight all of these guys green. We're excited about the offense. I'm not too concerned about the calf injury. Good evening to Justin. He says Zay Flowers is the guy. He's one of the best rookie wide receiver picks you can make. We'll get to some other rookie wide receivers that I'm drafting this year, but for sure Zay Flowers might be at the top of my list, and I think he should probably be, maybe even higher than Jordan Addison. But for the Bengals, I'm not concerned about Joe Burrow's calf injury. I think he's going to be fine. He's had plenty of time to heal. He's going to be just fine. He's a top 5 QB and one of the best offenses in football. Joe Mixon, I like as my running back too, but I do want to just pump the brakes because I did see signs of decline last year. The good news for Joe Mixon, he doesn't have a really good running back behind him. He's going to get a lot of volume. So he's a pure volume play. He can be a running back too that has RB1 upside. I think he's a 3rd, 4th round pick wherever. I'm fine with it. But clearly the guy you want here is Jamar Chase. You take him with the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever overall pick, and you just enjoy. I think we're going to see a breakout season out of Jamar Chase. Hopefully he stays healthy. dude's got, 1700 yard upside. He's probably going to be the candidate to lead the offense or lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns this year. And fun fact, last year, Jamar Chase, through 12 or 13 games, he led the NFL in targets per game. I think it was like 10.8. He was ahead of Kupp, ahead of Justin Jefferson. So Chase might be, he could finish as I think Chase could finish as the wide receiver 1 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. T. Higgins to me is a solid wide receiver 2. I'm not super excited about where he's going in his ADP. I'd rather have DK Metcalf, who's the number 1 on his team. I'd rather have a couple other guys in that area, but I do like Higgins if you get him. Tyler Boyd, I'm not excited about. I don't need him on my team. He's just a bench piece. And then Irv Smith, maybe, like he's a decent project tight end too. He's a guy that I want to monitor. I'm actually going to make him orange, so keep an eye on him. But it's clearly the guys in green here that I'm looking for. And yeah, that's the point. We haven't even heard anything really buzzing about Irv Smith all summer, so I think that's maybe because of the lack of the Burrow. But otherwise, let's get to these Pittsburgh Steelers, man. I think the darlings here are Deontay, George Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is one of the last tight ends that I want on my roster. If I can't get Darren Waller or Dallas Goedert, I want Pat Freiermuth. After that, I can maybe get Njoku. But Deontay is going to lead the team in targets and receptions. Pickens might even lead them in yards. I'm super excited. Year 2 wide receivers are always a good bet. Pickens is one of those guys. And the Steelers, they looked really good in the preseason, almost too good here, where I think Kenny Pickett's like the ideal quarterback 2 stash. Like if you grab your anchor QB1, your top 5, top 10 guy, and then you wait and you grab like Kenny Pickett and Jordan Love and you just, roll the dice at QB2 and figure it out. I think Kenny Pickett's going to take a year 2 leap. I prefer Jalen Warren at ADP to Najee Harris. I think he's the better back. I think I think Najee Harris is going to get a ton of volume, which is fine, but I think Jalen Warren's more explosive. So I don't draft Najee Harris at ADP. I'm going to make him orange because I'm okay with him if he falls, but I don't find myself drafting a lot of Najee because if I take Najee, I'm less likely to take Deontay and George Pickens and Pat. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. I want Deontay or Pickens. You need one of them, I think, this year because this is going to be pretty good. And then stacking Pickett and Pickens, it sounds fun. In a super flex league, man, like you want to have a couple stacks. You get 2 QBs. It's nice to have a receiver or 2 that are stacked with your guys here. So I think that makes sense. In a 1 QB league, we're not really worried about Pickett, but for sure in 2 QB super flex league, that's where it's at. So I like the Steelers offense. Don't sleep on Allen Robinson. I know he burned all of us last year, including me. And then I want to shout out Calvin Austin, who might have some opportunities this year. So I'm bullish on the Steelers, man. But let's move on over to the NFC North. Chicago Bears, there's only 3 guys that I want on my team. It's Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and DJ Moore. Justin Fields, he's going to have a ton of value in 4-point passing touchdown leagues. He loses value in 6-point passing touchdown leagues. But I still think he's a top 5 upside play. I'm probably taking Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert over him just because I feel better about their outlook. And Justin Fields, I just want to let you guys know he runs the ball a lot. He's going to have a lot of risk to take hits and miss a couple games. So I love Fields. I don't think he's going to rush for as many yards as he did last year, but I do expect his passing numbers to look somewhat better with a stud like DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore, I don't love him as a wide receiver 2, but I love him as a wide receiver 3. If you can get him on your roster, in the flex spot or the wide receiver 3 spot, I think that looks really, really good. Where's Mooney going? He's not going on my team, that's for sure. I'm not drafting Mooney or Chase Claypool. The Bears offense is going to throw the ball the fewest in the league. Don't go after these tertiary targets. It's just not good business, guys. There's better team, better upside, better players to get in the range of their outcomes. These guys are best ball picks only. If you need a tight end, I'm fine with Cole Kmet, but you're kind of doing the touchdown dance with him, hoping he falls into the end zone again. Now that DJ Moore's there, I don't think Cole Kmet's a viable guy you want to leave in your lineup every week. Deonta Foreman is the backup there. I wouldn't mind him as like one of my last picks on my team, but I'd rather draft Roschon Johnson. He's going to be the 3rd down change of pace back. There is some interest in the Bears offense here. Yeah, Allen Robinson burned us, man. Fields and Richardson that's a fun duo, man. You get a lot of rushing upside with that duo. But let's talk about the Packers. I'm cautiously optimistic about the Packers. Their offense was not good last year. It was not good. It was a bottom 10 offense, and I think this year they're going to be closer to average. So I expect the Packers to have better stats. on the season. Jordan Love does not need to be great. He just needs to be okay. And I think in a super flex league, I'm going to make him green. He belongs in that Kenny Pickett tier where I think he could surprise us. I'm drafting Aaron Jones to be. You can get him as your RB2. I think that's where he looks really, really good. He can be a top 10, top 12 running back, but when you put him at the RB2 slot, that's where his positional value is greatest. And I'm going to keep saying that positional value. That's super important because, Aaron Jones, yeah, if he finishes as top 10, top 12 back, he can be a running back one. But when you start your draft with Tony Pollard, you come back and you hit Amon-Ra St. Brown and you get Aaron Jones as your RB2, like that's a positional value. Aaron Jones at RB2 is kind of a cheat code. A.J. Dillon is a guy that I'm fine with putting on the end of my bench. You just got to be patient. If Aaron Jones goes down, misses a game or two, we've seen Dillon play pretty well, and he always seems to be like a guy you want on your team come the fantasy playoffs. I'm going to go to Luke Musgrave, man. Put Luke Musgrave on the end of your bench. You can wait for tight end if you want. If you want to grab somebody like Dalton Kincaid and Luke Musgrave, like do it. If you want to grab Njoku and Musgrave, do it. Musgrave is going to be on the field a ton. And yeah, Jones at RB2 is nasty. I think he's a third round value. It really depends on what website you're playing. If I look at just the Fantasy Pros ADP real quick, let's take a look at this together. They have him as RB15, pick 39. So that's like the in a 12-man league, that's like the second, third, fourth pick of the fourth round. So I'm okay with Aaron Jones in that range. That seems like a pretty good running back 2 position for you. Now, I'm in on Musgrave. I think one of your last picks needs to be a rookie receiver, whether it's Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, or Jonathan Mingo. I want Jaden Reed on my team. I think he's better than Romeo Doubs. Like, don't get me wrong. I still like Romeo Doubs. Like, the Packers, like, they're going to, like, this is the offense. Like, they're just going to leave these guys on the field. It's going to be very concentrated, and they're all going to probably be pretty decent plays. I think Doubs is someone that you want to put on your bench. I'd rather have Romeo Doubs than Tyler Boyd's, Darnell Mooney's, stuff like that. And then I do think Christian Watson, I think we're going to see him develop a little bit more as a receiver and a route runner this year. He's got to catch the ball. That's always a must, but it's hard to argue, let's see where Watson's ADP is here on the ESPN's Sleepers of the Worlds. Watson is 55th overall, so a late 5th round pick. Sign me up. Like, he's got league winning upside. We know that he can take any play to the house, and I think he's going to have a decent floor this year. So I like the Packers offense. They actually cut Patrick Taylor today, so they're going to have this backup here, Emmanuel Wilson Jr. But keep an eye here, and they also added Malik Heath. But keep an eye on Samori Toure. He's number 4 receiver here. If anything happens to one of the top guys, he's going to be the next man up. So cautiously optimistic about the Packers. The Detroit Lions, man, let's just go ahead and get this whole freaking chunk green. I love Jared Goff. I think if you wait for QB, you can get Jared Goff and Anthony Richardson and call it a day. Jared Goff is the ideal QB2 for Superflex for me. I think this offense is going to hum. Adding Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery is a huge upgrade over Swift and Jamal Williams. I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs as my running back too. I think his ADP is a little bit steep. I've been going back in the comments with Slick Rick. I don't know if you're watching the video, Slick Rick, but I do agree, man. I have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked probably too aggressively in my projections, but that's just how the projections came out. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is a really safe and solid running back too, but with his pass receiving profile in a full PPR league, I think he could finish as a top 10, top 12 running back. 3rd round, 4th round price tag is a little bit rich, but I'm willing to take a chance. The value here is on David Montgomery. Like, he's just way too cheap. He's down here at RB31. Dude's going to be a top 20 back by the end of the season. So my number 1 takeaway so far is draft David Montgomery. He's going to eat in this offense. He's going to get a ton of touches, goal line work, all the fun stuff that you're looking for from a running back sleeper. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, I have him as top 5 receiver upside in full PPR. Like, full PPR, I'm all in on St. Brown. Half PPR to standard, I could do without him, but I'm all in on St. Brown. Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds are going to get the start while Jameson Williams. I'm not even drafting Jameson Williams. I'm not going to burn a roster spot for 6 weeks just so I can maybe have someone that we don't know is good yet. Like, I want to see it before I buy it here. And then I do think Sam Laporte is an interesting sleeper on the bench. To be honest with you, Josh Reynolds might be a guy worth putting on your roster for the first 6 games and see what happens. He's a great end of the draft pick. The Vikings, for me, The guys that I want are going to be a little bit weird. I want Justin Jefferson for sure, and I want Jordan Addison for sure, and I like Kirk Cousins. He also fits that Jared Goff tier for me, or he's like a great QB2 in Superflex leagues, and if I want to do Cousins and Anthony Richardson, that does pay off. I'm not drafting Alexander Madison, guys. I think it's just a little bit too high. Like RB21 seems about right. He's being drafted in the 5th, 6th round, but I tend to like the receivers in this range. So I don't get a lot of Alexander Madison. I'll make him orange just because, like, again, orange means like I'm okay with him. But I don't love the Vikings schedule. I don't think they're going to run the ball effectively enough, and their defense is bad. Like, they're going to have to throw the ball. The guy that I want with one of my last picks is Ty Chandler. They actually cut DeWayne McBride today. They only have 3 running backs on roster. So round 16, Ty Chandler penciled in for me. Keep an eye on KJ Osborne. He's a guy that can be around 15, 16. And I'm not super excited about TJ Hawkinson. I don't think he's that elite of a tight end. I think I'd rather have Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert. And to be honest with you, like Hawkinson, I think Hawkinson gets drafted ahead of these guys. He does. I'd rather have Darren Waller and Dallas Goedert and Pat Freiermuth, to be honest with you. I like Hawkinson as a player, but I'm not drafting him that high. But we'll move on here. That's the NFC North. Let's bounce it on down to the NFC East. A lot of fun options on here for us, but there's only a handful of guys that I actually want on my fantasy teams. That's Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Darren Waller. I think you could take a shot on your bench with one of these receivers. They could be of use. And then the ultimate sleeper here is going to be Jalen Hyatt. I just don't think you're ever going to feel comfortable starting a receiver for the Giants other than Darren Waller. Waller is the wide receiver 1 for this team. He's my tight end 3, and he's not that far off of Mark Andrews. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to absolutely crush it. Make Saquon Barkley your first-round pick at, the back end of the first round. And Daniel Jones is just one of those guys that's being drafted way too late right now. As far as quarterbacks goes, Daniel Jones is QB 14. Like, I want Daniel Jones over Cousins, Rodgers, probably Tua over Dak, and maybe Deshaun Watson. I think he's top 10 upside at the position. So I love Daniel Jones. I think this offense is going to improve in year 2 of Brian Daboll, in year 2 for Daniel Jones in this system. They got Darren Waller. Receiver room looks okay. If I had to take a chance on one, I might grab Paris Campbell. I think he's going to be the guy that leads the team in receptions for receivers. Moving on to the Washington Commanders, I might be all in on the Commanders, man. I think this offense is going to have to put up points. I'm actually kind of nervous about Terry McLaurin right now. We'll get to him in a second. I'm okay with Curtis Samuel. And then Cole Turner is the tight end to monitor off the waiver wire. But Sam Howell, Superflex Leagues, sign me up. I think Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. Depends on the format. Full PPR, I want Gibson. Half PPR or standard, I want Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson's going to flirt with 1,000 yards rushing. Antonio Gibson's probably going to be around 1,000 yards, all-purpose running and receiving. But I looked at their strength of schedule. They got a tough schedule this year. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. So full PPR, I want Gibson on my team. Brian Robinson's probably the goal line back, and I do expect him to look good and being more involved in the passing game. But both guys, honestly, man, are really good values. Like I like both a ton. Brian Robinson being RB32 and Gibson RB34. I have both of them as top 30 backs. So there's room for both. Try and get one. And again, it's kind of dependent of your scoring format. Terry McLaurin, I'm fine with Terry McLaurin. He hasn't really dipped enough to the point where I'm super excited about it. Right now, he's still wide receiver 23 in the 5th round. Give me Jahan Dotson, who's got wide receiver 33 and 86, price tags. I'm taking Jahan Dotson over Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, I'll probably take Chris Godwin, but I do think Jahan Dotson, I'm taking Jahan Dotson over Jerry Jeudy, who's injured, over Terry McLaurin, who's probably injured right now. I'm very, very excited about Jahan Dotson, who was a first-round pick. Like, he's got higher draft capital than Terry McLaurin. So I know Jahan Dotson's good. He's a touchdown guy. He's the guy I want as my wide receiver 3. And then Samuel's just the end of the bench stash play. And then don't sleep on Cole Turner. I think he's their best tight end. Cowboys, let's highlight this one up. We got a lot of guys that we like here. It's going to be a fun year for the Cowboys. I'm pretty excited about these guys. And I have a couple guys here that I'm going to highlight orange. Dak, I think, can be part of that plan where you grab Dak and Anthony Richardson and make a duo. Be one of the last teams to take a QB. Dak looks really good as your QB2 in Superflex leagues as well. I'm totally cool with Dak this year. Tony Pollard, to me, is a top 5 running back. And where Tony Pollard's being drafted right now, he's actually RB7. I'm taking Pollard over Henry and Chubb for sure. Barkley is a bit of a toss-up, but Pollard RB4, RB5 makes a lot of sense to me. Rico Dowdle's the number 2, so you could put him on the end of your bench and see what happens. See what happens the first week or two. But CeeDee Lamb, yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb's one of those positional value guys that looks best as a wide receiver 2 in my lineup. So if you start your draft with Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb, that looks really, really good. I think CeeDee Lamb's probably not a top 5 guy. I think he's a top 10 guy though at the receiver position. I think Brandon Cooks is going to be relevant this year. I'm excited for him, and hopefully he gets kind of a rejuvenated back half of his career here in Dallas. He can be your number 4 receiver, first guy off the bench, or someone you've put in your flex. Gallup belongs in that Romeo Doubs, Tyler Boyd tier, just someone on the end of your bench that's a veteran presence. And then the sleeper tight end of the year here is Jake Ferguson. I actually got him as my tight end 12 in my projections. I think he's going to eat. He is a very good pass catching tight end, and he can also hold his own as a blocker. So I'm in on Dallas. Moving on to the Eagles here. I love the Eagles. We're going to highlight all 4 of these guys green. Any chance you can get Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, please do so. I actually have Dallas Goedert as my tight end 4, and he's the one that excites me the most because he's drafted the cheapest out of these 4 here. I think Jalen Hurts is the QB1 this year. Take him whenever you want. Just, if I can get him at a value, I would prefer that. A.J. Brown, I think, has top 5 receiver upside, but he's safe as a top 10 wide receiver, and he's being drafted I think as a wide receiver. He's being drafted at wide receiver 6. So first pick of the second round makes sense to me. If you can get him as your wide receiver 2, that's ridiculous. Devonta Smith can be your wide receiver 2, but his positional value going at pick 30, you can get him as your wide receiver 3. If you start 3 wide receivers and just get a sick lineup, I think DeAndre Swift, Kenny Gainwell, and Rashad Penny are all going to annoy the hell out of us this year. Good luck. Good luck, man. If you're drafting an Eagle and if it's not Hurts, A.J. Brown, Smith, or Goddard, I think you're doing it wrong. The guy that I want is probably Kenny Gainwell because he's cheaper than Swift, but I do think all 3 of these guys will have value at some point this season, but just not in my starting lineup. Put them on your bench. Let things evolve and unfold for a little bit. But that's how I'm playing the Eagles here. Let's move on to there we go. Let's move on to the AFC East, Justin's favorite division here. We'll start with the Dolphins. No Jonathan Taylor, but we're going to highlight Tua, Tyreek, Waddle. That's probably it. I'm going to make Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson orange. I'm going to make Devon Achane red. I'm not drafting Achane. And then keep an eye on Braxton Berrios and Durham Smythe. These guys are waiver wire guys we'll talk about at some point this year. But Tua, I like Tua. I think any week that he's healthy, he's got, top 10 upside at the position. He feels a little bit light as your QB1, but he's got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. We know this offense is going to be good. So I'm okay with if you grab Tua and Anthony Richardson, Tua and Jared Goff, something like that can work. Now, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, it's a duo. I don't know how it's going to work, honestly. It's probably going to be last man standing kind of situation here, but either way, as long as one of these guys are healthy, they're going to be the primary ball carrier. Devon Achane's got a shoulder thing. I'm not drafting him. He's not a every down runner as well. He's more of a change of pace, third down kind of back. So I'm interested in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson as like my 4th or 5th running back on my bench, but I might prefer some higher upside guys. Both these guys are kind of veterans. Tyreek, yes, take him in the 1st round. Jalen Waddle, yes, take him in the 2nd round. And then keep an eye on Berrios and Durham Smythe. Alrighty. Justin's team, the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not drafting as a QB1. I think Rodgers has value in Superflex leagues. But if you draft him in your 1 QB leagues, make sure you have another QB. Because, again, those first 6 games are really tough for the Jets. We wouldn't be surprised if the Jets are 2-4 or 3-3 coming out of those 6 games heading into the bye week. So, tough schedule for them. They got Dalvin Cook for the starting, first 6 games. I view it. That's kind of how I view it. I view the Jets season in 2 parts. The first 6 weeks with that tough schedule, if they can win 3 games, that's a good job. But they might be 2-4, could probably be 3-3, and they're going to rely heavily on Dalvin Cook. After the bye week 7 and going into week 8, I think that's when it becomes the Breece Hall show. Hopefully, we just need to get Breece through the bye week, and that's where I think Dalvin Cook's value goes down. If you draft Dalvin Cook, try and trade him before the bye week because that's when all his value will be kind of used up. I think the first 6 games, Dalvin Cook can be a running back 2 for you. Not super excited about it. And I do think Breece Hall has league-winning upside if you want to stash him for the long haul. The receiver you want is obviously Garrett Wilson. The dude's got top 10 upside at the position, and he could be top 5. That's how good he is. He's really, really good. He's going to do a Devontae Adams impersonation for Aaron Rodgers. Lazard, I'm fine with. He belongs in that big tier of ugly guys of like Michael Gallup, Tyler Boyd, Romeo Dobbs, guys that I'm fine with, at the end of my bench, but I'm not super excited about, Mecole Hardman's probably a waiver wire guy. And then I'm actually okay with Tyler Conklin as my tight end 2 on my bench. Corey Davis retired. I'm sorry, man. Denzel Mims not on the team. I got to get these wide receivers updated here for the Jets. But I'm optimistic about the Jets. If I don't get Garrett Wilson, I'm probably okay not getting a Jet. I think there's room for them on the team, and Breece Hall is the guy I want down the stretch, but Garrett Wilson is that offense. The Buffalo Bills, man, we got a lot of guys that look pretty good. Latavius Murray, Damian Harris, we're going to make them orange, and then I'm going to make Deontay Hardy orange. Okay. Josh Allen, yes, he's the top 3 quarterback. Take him whenever you can. If you stack him with Diggs, that's a lot of fun. I do think James Cook is an excellent RB2 in PPR formats. Half PPR to standard leagues, I'm not as excited about James Cook. His volume can come purely as a receiving back. I do think he's going to get a lot more carries than people anticipated. Like I expect him getting to like 12 to 15 carries almost per game as the lead back. Now, last week in the preseason game, they got to the goal line. They brought in Damian Harris. Week 1 of the preseason, Damian Harris wasn't healthy. Latavius Murray was, and he was the backup. James Cook got the goal line series. So I think there's going to be a rotation on the goal line. We'll see how it plays out, but I think James Cook's still a good pick. Harris and Murray, standard league players only for me. I'm not drafting them in full PPR. Diggs, yes, take him into the first round, whatever you need. And don't sleep on Gabe Davis. I know he burned us all last year, but I think he's going to have a nice bounce back season. He's going to be healthy, hopefully, for the whole year. He had that ankle sprain week 1 and just wasn't able to get in and out of breaks and have that burst. So Gabe Davis is a nice value. For where he's being drafted right now, I'm buying Gabe Davis. Wide receiver 38. As long as he plays 17 games, he's going to be a top 36 wide receiver in one of the best passing offenses. And then Deontay Hardy's the wide receiver 3, but the actual wide receiver 3 is Dalton Kincaid, who I think you can make work as your tight end 1. If you want to grab Kincaid and Musgrave, Kincaid and Ferguson, Kincaid and Jawan Johnson, something like that, you can make a tight end duo work with Dalton Kincaid. And to be honest with you guys, he's not a tight end. He's not a tight end. He's like the next version of Travis Kelce. They're just not going to ask him to block a lot. So I like Kincaid. He's going to operate more as their wide receiver 3 with Deontay Hardy. Knox is still going to stay on the field with his actual hand in the dirt as the blocking tight end, which Knox is fine in a standard league because I think he's going to catch touchdowns. Khalil Shakir's not really having much success. Justin Shorter made the team. And Trent Sherfield's actually there as the next best receiver. But I like the Bills. You guys should too. The Colts or the Patriots literally cut all their backs today. I have to update their depth chart here. I was actually looking at it and seeing who all made the team. But for me, the Patriots have the toughest schedule in football this year. I'm only taking Ramondre Stevenson in a full PPR format, and I'm only taking Ezekiel Elliott in a standard format. Otherwise, Mac Jones in a Superflex league. Otherwise, I don't care. I'm sorry. Juju, Devontae, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry. Patriots just don't excite me on offense. They finally got an offensive coordinator. I think it's going to be okay. It's going to look okay this year. It's going to look much better this year than it did last year, but the schedule's brutal. It's Ramondre and it's Zeke. That's all I'm doing. I don't want to be short with you guys on the Patriots, but leave other people to take your Jujus, the Parkers, the Bournes, the Henrys. You're not going to like starting these guys every week, so don't bother putting them on your bench. That's pretty much how I'm playing the Patriots. Moving on to a fun division, the AFC South. And when I pulled up Warren Sharp's, let me actually pull that back up for you guys. I made a video on it before too, so you guys can check that out. But I was looking at Warren Sharp's strength of schedule. Check this out. We have the strength of schedule here. Colts are the 3rd best schedule this year. The Texans are the 7th. The Titans are the 9th. And the Jaguars are the 12th. The entire AFC South is kind of gross, but they have the best schedule this year. That division has the best schedule this year, as well as the NFC South. So both Souths, man, I think we're going to find value on these teams here. The guy that I want the most on the Houston Texans is Dameon Pierce. I'm going to give him bright green because he's my favorite player to draft right now. I think he's being criminally underrated. The dude got elite usage in the preseason. He's being drafted at RB16. I think that's his floor. I have Dameon Pierce as my RB11 or 12 in my projections. He's really ideal as your RB2, but if you wanted to kind of go anchor running back with Dameon Pierce as your RB1, I think it can work. Again, the Texans have the 7th easiest schedule this year. They're playing in the AFC South. Shout out to Aiden. We're just in time, man. We're going to be going over your Jacksonville Jags any minute here. We got Adam Thielen for Dobbs. All right, congrats, man. But anyways, back to the Texans here. I think CJ Stroud in a super flex league, sure. Devin Singletary, no. Mike Boone, no. Nico Collins, yes. I want Nico Collins on my bench this year. Don't sleep on Robert Woods, Revival, or Tank Dell. The number 4 receiver is Noah Brown, so don't draft John Mechie, guys. He's running as the wide receiver 5 right now. And I'm going to tell you, maybe Dalton Schultz, but please don't. Let's make it red. If you're drafting a Texan and it's not Dameon Pierce, you're doing something wrong. Otherwise, you could stay away. It's maybe Nico in a 1 QB league, maybe CJ Stroud in a super flex league. Otherwise, it's Dameon Pierce. That's who we're looking for. Just Killer, man, we're back. How we doing tonight? We're mid AFC South right now. And the man that just popped in, Aiden here, we're going to go over your Jacksonville Jaguars. Schultz won't get targets around. Yeah, I'm not drafting Dalton Schultz, man. There's so many other tight ends that I'd rather have. And again, like I said, if you draft a Texan and it's not Dameon Pierce or Nico Collins, you're probably doing something wrong. So Jacksonville Jaguars, let's just get this all green. Let's just get it all green because there's a lot of use here. I'm actually not excited about Evan Ingram, but I'm going to make him orange. I'm going to make Zay Jones orange. And so I've covered the Norths and the Easts so far. We're halfway through right now. We're working on the AFC South, and we're going to bounce to the NFC South. Then we're going to go with the NFC West, and then we're going to wrap up with the AFC West. So we're about halfway through. We're on schedule right now. I said we're going to go live for about an hour. So just catching my breath, man. We're just talking through so much stuff here. And this is going to be my final draft prep video before Labor Day weekend, guys. So hopefully it's enough for you guys. I'm basically just trying to highlight the players that I'm looking for and putting on my lists. Now, I love the Jags. Strength of schedule, the Jags have the 12th best schedule according to Las Vegas win totals here. So we should be excited about this offense. Their offensive line's a concern. I just want to throw it out there. But the players that come to mind when I'm drafting Jags, I think Trevor Lawrence is QB 8 in my projections. He's kind of the last of the elite QBs because then there's a huge drop-off to this big tier of maybe they can be my QB 1. Trevor Lawrence is a QB 1. Draft him. You can wait for him. I think he's got a 6th or 7th round value here. I'm just referencing Fantasy Pros average draft position. They have Trevor Lawrence as the 54th pick. You can explore him in the 5th round if he falls to the 6th. That's what's going to be good. KC in the red. No, we're going to get to Kansas City. They're going to be one of the last teams we cover. We're going to cover the AFC. We're going to cover the AFC West at the end. But anyways, Trevor Lawrence, yes. Tank Bigsby can be your running back 2. I don't think he's a running back 1. He's a really steady running back 2, though. Again, I'm just nervous about the offensive line. I'm also nervous about Tank Bigsby being there. They used him a lot in the preseason game, week 3. He's going to be a guy that gets on the field. You can put Tank Bigsby as one of your final picks. You can put him as one of your final picks at the end of your draft. I don't know who KC is. KC in the red. Who's KC? I don't know who KC is. I don't know. I don't know what RT Sports is. Is it Roto Sports, RT Sports? Well, we don't know. But Calvin Ridley is the guy that I want on my team. If I'm drafting a Jaguar receiver, it's Calvin Ridley. I think he is the clear number 1. He's going to be on the field the most. Christian Kirk's getting a lot of flack lately. He didn't really get an elite preseason usage. Christian Kirk profiles more as a wide receiver 3 flex this year. If he's the 4th receiver on your team, that's perfect. If he's the 2nd receiver on your team, that's not good. Calvin Ridley can be your wide receiver 2. I think with his draft position, you're looking at a pretty good value here. He's 16th at the wide receiver position. He's 36th overall. I think he can be a solid wide receiver 2, and he's probably got wide receiver 1 upside almost every week. Make him your wide receiver 2. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, the Chiefs have a tough schedule. The whole AFC West actually has a tough schedule. You have the Raiders, you have the Chiefs, you have the Chargers, and you have the Broncos here. So all of it's literally it changes every 4 years, and one of these years the AFC West will get one of the easier schedules, and that's going to be the year to take those guys. But For sure, the Chiefs have one of the toughest schedules in the league this year, but that's not going to scare me off their fantasy stuff here. And Rave's with us. Good, my man. How we doing? We're just covering the Jags real quick. I think I covered most of the guys here. Zay Jones belongs in that big tier of like wide receivers that I'm fine with at the end of my bench. You know, your Michael Gallups, your Tyler Boyds, your Alan Lazards, your Romeo Dobbs, guys that are fine, not super excited about, but they're just kind of there. And then Evan Ingram, I'm okay with Evan Ingram. I think the presence of Ridley, Kirk, and Zay Jones is going to hurt him this year. He did have a couple spike games last year that inflated his numbers. So I'm not super excited about Evan Ingram. I'd rather have David Njoku or Pat Freiermuth in that range. And then I don't really know if there's anybody that we need to know about on the bench here. But I do think the Jags are the class of the AFC South. Colts. Anthony Richardson, I want on my team as my quarterback too in a 1 QB league. I think in a super flex league, he looks really good. This is the end of the list for me. They actually cut Kenyon Drake today. I don't know who the running back 2 is. I think it's Evan Hall. But Michael Pittman, I could do without him. Like to be honest, he's like a wide receiver 3 flex. He's probably your best. He's probably best like on your bench just to see what happens. So if you get him as your 4, I'm fine with it. I think Alec Pierce is going to be frustrating to play every week. I think Josh Downs as well. And Jelani Woods is actually out with a little bit of a hamstring thing. So Kylan Grant, and I'm projecting to be the tight end 1. Honestly, guys, I'm not super excited about the Colts. I love Anthony Richardson. That's who we should be excited about. I do think these backup running backs, you know, the first 4 games that Jonathan Taylor's out on PUP list, we're actually interested in Evan Hall and Deion Jackson. My bad. We're not interested in Zach Moss. But Evan Hall and Deion Jackson are going to split the backfield week 1. I'm projecting a veteran running back to sign here, whether it's Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, or maybe they trade for something like that. I don't know yet. But for sure, the first 4 games, no Jonathan Taylor, Evan Hall, Deion Jackson. If you're drafting tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, you can snag one of these guys on the end of your bench and see what happens. I think Evan Hull excites me more long term. But honestly, are we really going to want to trust these guys in our starting lineups week 1, week 2? I don't think so. And then I'm just not drafting Jonathan Taylor, guys. I did do a video earlier when I got home how I'm drafting Jonathan Taylor. Basically, I'm viewing Jonathan Taylor as like Alvin Kamara, because Kamara's out for 3 games, Jonathan Taylor's out for 4, but we have no clarity on Jonathan Taylor. Will he play with the Colts again? Will he be traded? Is he going to be put on IR? We don't really know. So I'm kind of drafting Jonathan Taylor as like running back 30 in that range. So for me to draft Jonathan Taylor, he's going to have to come down, you know, towards Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson range, which I don't think he does. So Colts, I'm sorry, I'm cutting it kind of short here, but it's Anthony Richardson or bust. And then let me just get caught up on some of the comments here. And yeah, hope everyone's having a great evening. We got the Bills in December. I like Njoku. For me, my tight end preferences have been Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert. Those are the 2 guys that I'm looking for because I think they both have top 5 upside, and they're relatively cheap. They're both like 5th, 6th round picks. Otherwise, I'm looking for Pat Freiermuth, and then Njoku's kind of that next guy that I like to look for. I'm getting Jags defense. Yep, they're a good play week 1. Has anyone told you look like Adam Sandler? Me and my girlfriend, my girlfriend teases me that I look like Adam Sandler a lot because I'm always wearing like a crew neck, like basketball shorts, and one of those dad hats. So she would. I'm actually going to take a picture of that because she calls me Adam Sandler all the time. So thanks for the comment, man. That's funny. John Brown says DK or Ridley in the 2-3 turn. Need advice. So if we go look at my projections, I don't understand why in the terms of ADP that when JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think he's going to get put on the PUP list. I'm not sure yet if he's going to miss 4 games, but I think he's going to miss a few games. Tyler Lockett shot up the draft boards. Like Tyler Lockett's moving up boards. He's wide receiver 30. He's moving up, but DK Metcalf didn't really move up. I actually have DK Metcalf ahead of Calvin Ridley. And one of the other things that I'm looking at here too, the Seahawks have a really nice schedule. They play in the NFC West. The 49ers have an elite defense, but other than that, like the Cardinals and the Rams do not. I like DK Metcalf a lot. I think it really depends on the scoring formats. I'm gonna lean DK Metcalf though, but they're both good picks, man. Like honestly, John, if you take Calvin Ridley, I think he could be top 5, top 10 receiver. I think DK Metcalf can be too. I think DK Metcalf's got like 10, 12 upside touchdowns as an upside. So To me, both fantastic picks. I think because you're thinking, along those terms, I think you're going to have a good draft with whatever you end up with. But I'm going to go with DK Metcalf, and yeah, man, Adam Sandler. But let's get over to the Titans here. And yeah, man, I'm in Milwaukee. I'm from Green Bay, so Packers, Bucks are my teams, unfortunately. But yep, Bucks are my squad. But let's get to the Tennessee Titans here, guys. I'm curious, you guys, like, which Titans are you guys drafting this year? Do you need a Titan on offense? I think Ryan Tannehill for Superflex leagues has some intrigue as like a late sleeper you put on your bench. I think Derrick Henry is a guy that I don't take a lot. Like, I'm nervous about his age in the Titans offensive line. I do find myself drafting Tajay Spears, though. I like Spears. I'm okay with DeAndre Hopkins when he falls. If you can put DeAndre Hopkins as your wide receiver 3, I think that's where he looks really good. And again, we're looking at the strength of schedule here. The Titans are 9th. They have a decent schedule. They're in the AFC South. They got some easy opponents. I think Hopkins could eat. And you know what? I'm going to make Derrick Henry green. I think Derrick Henry in the second round makes sense. I'm also drafting Treylon Burks, who got a huge ADP dip now when he hurt his knee. He had an LCL injury in his knee. Not super crazy, but he shouldn't be going as wide receiver 48. I think he should be a little bit higher. So I like collecting Burks on my bench. Chigo Okonkwo is just a tight end 2 guy that you could stash. I wouldn't feel comfortable starting him week 1 in my lineup, but on my bench, I'd like to babysit Chigo Okonkwo. After that, it's just not happening for the Texans or for the Titans, man. They don't have great backups. Hassan Haskins is a piece of shit, but Derrick Henry, sure. Tajay on my bench, yes, as one of my final picks. Hopkins and Burks, I'm interested in. And let's see what else we got here. Yeah, we got Tajay Spears hype. Spears looked really good in the preseason, and he locked up the running back 2 job. I think he's got a base role as the third down back. They're going to try and keep Derrick Henry fresh, right? So I think Tajay Spears is one of the best picks. If you're in a league where you guys got like 16 rounds, like, make Tajay Spears your final bench piece. In the 14th or 15th round, whatever you got to do. So yeah, I good call there, guys. And yeah, I'm in on Burks as a sleeper. And I think Chigo Okonkwo can be your tight end 2. Yeah, so that's what I saw. I'm super in on Burks. He was one of my favorite like before the Hopkins trade. I was really excited about Burks, and I think I'm coming back to him as being a great pick. But let's move on to the NFC South. Which, again, we mentioned the NFC South has good matchups. The Saints have the easiest schedule. The Falcons have the second easiest schedule. Here's the Panthers at 4. And then the Bucks are at 17. I think I'm just going to cross the Bucks off my list, guys. I'm not sure what you guys think about that. But let's go over the Falcons. I think Bijan is a yes. First round, give me Bijan. I love Bijan this year. I think Drake London looks really nice as a wide receiver 3 in full PPR leagues. I'm kind of out on Kyle Pitts. I'm going to make him orange here because I think he's okay when he falls at ADP. And then I do think Desmond Ridder's an interesting super flex play, but that's literally it. You could put Tyler Algier on the end of your bench. I'm not buying Cordero Patterson, guys. I don't want to burn a roster spot on the 34-year-old running back. But anyways, Bijan, London, yes, please. Ridder in a super flex, Algier on my bench, or Pitts, as a tight end if he falls. I don't know what you guys think about the Falcons, but you guys can let me know. The team that I really want to target here is the New Orleans Saints. I think Derek Carr is a great super flex QB2. He's not a QB1 in like a 10 or 12-man league where it's just one QB, but he's interesting. I'm drafting the hell out of Alvin Kamara. I think he's going to come back and be a running back 2 when he returns week 4. I think Jamal Williams can be your running back 2 for the first 3 games. I'm still drafting Kendra Miller on the end of my bench because, week 1, if Kendra Miller takes a 80-yard house call and Jamal Williams just kind of looks like a turd running for 3.5 yards per carry, they're going to give Miller the ball more. So I'm watching for that. Chris Olave, if you have to draft one New Orleans Saint, you want Chris Olave. Are you guys in? Are you guys in or out on Michael Thomas? I prefer not to draft him because his ADP is kind of weird. Like around his ADP, I'm taking Zay Flowers, I'm taking Sky Moore, I'm taking Brandon Cooks, JSN. Like I don't take a lot of Michael Thomas, but I'm okay with him. Rashid Shaheed, maybe he's a waiver wire guy at some point this year. And then I'm actually open to Jawan Johnson as a tight end 2 for me. let's get caught up here. Thoughts on selling Mixon plus Mike Williams for James Cook and Burks in a second? It's a lot to digest, but I think I'm going to go with the youth, man. Cook, Burks, both second-year players and a 2024 second. Sign me up. So part one, what I did, it's basically the same thing. I didn't highlight the players, and I didn't do it live. So I was just basically talking for an hour and like 10 minutes, and I kind of just gave you guys the snapshot. So it's literally the exact same thing, but it's not live, and I'm kind of going a little bit more in depth as I give each team about 3 or 4 minutes. So kind of the same thing, but now we're kind of interactive tonight, and I'm actually highlighting it and kind of doing a little bit more fantasy take of the situation. So same thing, just a little bit different tonight. And yeah, Olave right now is being priced. Let me zoom in here. Olave's wide receiver 12, and I'm buying it. I'd rather have Olave than Devonta, Debo, T. Higgins. I think Olave, DK, and Ridley, that's a really tough group for me. If I can only have, I'm going to be doing a draft soon, and I have the second overall pick, and I'm going to be at the 2-3 turn, and I'm going to be looking at Olave, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf. It's going to be a tough decision. Oh, man, okay. Olave's your dude. You want Chris Olave this year. He was pretty elite as a rookie last year. He might have been him and Garrett Wilson were some of the best rookie wide receivers last year, but Olave he's good, man. The teams you missed. So we're on the South right now. We just covered the AFC South. This is my sixth division of the night. So we covered the entire AFC North, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. We covered the whole NFC North, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. Covered the AFC East, the Patriots, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills. And then we covered the NFC East, which is the Eagles, the Commanders, the Giants, and the Cowboys. So training my memory there. Ryan, good evening, my man. Hope you're doing well. We're just recapping my fantasy takes here on the final week of the draft prep for us. But the Saints, man, again, they have the easiest schedule in the league. They're gonna win games. Make them your defense. If you guys draft defenses in your leagues, draft the Saints defense. They're gonna be really, really good. I didn't see. After the video, you can kind of go back and rewind. But again, I basically just went through and I highlighted everybody. Green or orange equals I'm open to them. I don't love them. Green, I want them on my teams. I do a super green if I super like them. But the Saints, definitely, you guys got to have a Saint on your team. If not, get the Saints defense. But let's go about the Panthers. The Panthers have the 4th easiest schedule according to Warren Sharp's strength of schedule. I don't think you need to draft a Panther this year. I think Miles Sanders is okay as a running back too. I think Bryce Young is a super flex only option. I'm not, drafting the handcuffs, Hubbard or Blackshear. To be honest with you, I don't hate Thielen. I think Thielen could be your wide receiver 3 or 4. You might even start him week 1 and have an okay day, but I just don't think he's going to be on your team in your starting lineup come December. So I'm super nervous about that. And Just Killer, we can. I planned on going live for an hour, so let's bang out the rest of them, and then if I can go over anything else you need. But otherwise, DJ Chark, Mingo. I want Mingo on my bench as one of my last rookie picks. I'll take a shot on Mingo. Hayden Hurst maybe as a tight end too. I'm not feeling the Panthers, guys. They do have an easy schedule, but overall I don't have the good vibes for the Panthers right now. Tampa Bay, same thing. I think Rachaad White can be a nice running back too in PPR leagues. Any other format, I'm not taking him. I do think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin can be valuable wide receiver 3s, but again, where they're being drafted, Godwin and Mike Evans, down all the way down here. Give me Tyler Lockett, give me Brandon Ayuk, give me Mike Williams, George Pickens, give me Jahan Dotson, give me Deontay Johnson, give me these guys over the Buccaneers, which they're playing for the 1st overall pick here. So I'm cutting the Buccaneers short, but we're going to move on to the AFC or the NFC West. And this is the division that you want to be a part of. Yes, Christian McCaffrey's elite. I think Debo and Ayuk can both be your wide receiver 2s, but they look best as your wide receiver 3s. I'm actually not drafting George Kittle, guys. Last year, he had a touchdown spike year. I see that coming back down to 5 or 6 touchdowns. And I think with a healthy CMC, Debo, and Ayuk, it's probably not looking all that rosy for George Kittle. Now, Brock Purdy looks really good as a super flex QB2. Other than that, that's pretty much the offense. I mean, Trey Lance is out of here now, but I am watching the health of the backups here. You could maybe draft Elijah Mitchell as a handcuff, but keep an eye on Jordan Mason. He did run pretty good in the preseason. I do like the 49ers, and at the end here, the strength of schedule, 49ers got the 5th best schedule, so it's looking pretty good here. Now, the Rams are one of those teams that have a middle schedule. They're ranked 15th. I'm not super excited about the Rams. I do think Cooper Kupp is still elite. He's going to have a good year. Matthew Stafford is a guy that I'm open to in Superflex leagues. Cam Akers, I'm not super excited about. I think he's kind of like Miles Sanders for me. He could be an RB2, but they really like Kyren Williams, and I don't mind putting Kyren Williams as like the last pick on my team and my bench and seeing how week 1 goes, because there's been some buzz that Kyren Williams might be the 3rd down back, and they really liked him last summer too. They might give him a chance to get some playing time, and Royce Freeman got cut. But after that, like maybe Tyler Higbee as your tight end 1 or 2, I'm fine with it. But honestly, it's Cooper Kupp. That's the guy I want here. Stafford in the super flex leagues, and the other guys I could do without. The Rams just aren't going to be good. Challenge for you guys in the chat. I'm going to guess Diggs, Chase, and Allen. Yes, sir. Got pick 2 tonight for 12-team league. Torn between Chase and CMC. Lean CMC upside come playoff weeks. They're both fantastic picks, man. I think in a full PPR, my 2nd overall pick has always been Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase. I tend to wait for running backs, but I get it. If you start with CMC, you know you're going to like the wide receivers at the 2-3 turn. So if that's what makes you comfortable, I think they're both in the same tier. And again, we looked at that strength of schedule, man. 49ers have the 5th easiest schedule this season, which is really good for CMC. And no problem, man. Thoughts on the running back room too, man. They only got 2 running backs on the roster. Mac Jones is gone. I think they're going to go add Colt McCoy. I think Akers is the guy, but like honestly, if I'm drafting a Ram and it's not Cooper Kupp, I probably don't need that Ram. I think Cam Akers is fine, but where Cam Akers is, my problem is where Cam Akers is being drafted. Cam Akers has ADP of 57. I'd rather wait for James Cook 10 picks later. I like getting Kamara in that same range. Let me actually filter here. I like James Cook. I'd rather wait for David Montgomery over Cam Akers. So it's tough for me to click on Cam Akers right now. Let's finish up with the Seahawks here in the NFC West, and then we'll go to everyone's favorite division, the NFC West. Again, Seahawks, they have the 10th easiest schedule this year. Geno Smith, I think, can be a top 10, top 12 QB. If you want to wait for QB in a 1 QB league, grab Geno and Anthony Richardson. Grab Geno and Jared Goff and just play the matchups. I think it can work out. Now, Kenneth Walker, I'm not taking him in a full PPR league. I'm taking him in half PPR and standard league. So I'm going to make him orange because he's very scoring format dependent. I think Zach Charbonnet, he's good in any format. I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be a really good player. He's going to complement Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's not really a great pass catching back. Charbonnet is. And to be honest, I actually think Charbonnet might be the goal line back. I'm still not sure on that theory yet, but we'll test it out. Charbonnet just goes way too late in drafts where he's being drafted right now. RB 36 around pick 100. You can get him in the double-digit rounds and stash him. I super love DK Metcalf. I like Tyler Lockett. And right now, guys, Jackson Smith-Njigba is falling. Like I did a draft last night with Harris, who watches the videos usually. I think we saw JSN fall just way, way, way too far. So I'm going to make him orange. If you can get him late, stash him, put him on your IR, see what happens. That's probably good news. But that's really it. We're not drafting the Seahawks tight ends. I want DK. If I'm grabbing one Seahawk, it's DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, and then I'll consider Geno Smith. Let's finish up with the Cardinals here. I don't know what to do, guys. I really don't want to draft a Cardinal. Like if I'm being honest with you guys, like we could just cross this whole team off the list. They have the 22nd hardest schedule. We don't know who their QB is week 1. I'm assuming it's going to be Josh Dobbs. Like, come on, guys. Like they're just going to start a guy that got there last week. They're playing for the number 1 pick. They're not going to win games. They're probably going to sell Marquise Brown at the trade deadline, which maybe Marquise is a target. And if you can just put up with the Cardinals bullshit, but Otherwise, like I'm not interested in James Conner because where Conner gets drafted, I'm gonna wait for James Cook, Kamara, Pacheco, Montgomery. I don't see Conner being on my roster for the fantasy playoff stretch, so I don't take a lot of him. I don't see it with the Cardinals, guys. I'm gonna skip the Cardinals. If you guys have questions on the Cardinals, we can get into it. Let me get caught up on the comments, and then we'll go over the Kansas City Chiefs. Who is one player who's gonna shock a lot of people this season? Besides Jordan Love, one player that's going to shock everybody this year, I think it's Dameon Pierce, man. My Dameon Pierce vibes are through the roof the last couple of weeks. He's been a guy that I drafted a ton. Absolutely love Dameon Pierce. If I had to give you one player at each position here, I think QB. The QB that's going to shock, I think it's Kenny Pickett or Jordan Love that's going to play pretty well this year. For running back, I really like Dameon Pierce, but I also really like David Montgomery. For wide receiver, I think one of the ultimate sleepers is DK Metcalf. People are kind of disrespecting him. I still think he's he could finish top 5. Like if he catches 12, 13 touchdowns, we're not going to be surprised, right? The other receiver that I think could shock people is Jahan Dotson, who I have a theory, and I never really voiced it before Terry McLaurin's injury, but I think it's possible that Jahan Dotson's a better receiver than Terry McLaurin. He has the first-round pedigree that we look for. He was drafted 16th overall last year. Terry McLaurin was a nice second-round hit for the Commanders. But Jahan Dotson's really freaking good. He caught 7 touchdowns last year as a rookie from Taylor Heineke. And I know Sam Howell is still unknown, but personally, I want second-year wide receivers on my team. And just to be quick with you, this list of second-year receivers, this is a sick list. You got Garrett Wilson, you have Chris Olave, you have Drake London, you have George Pickens, you have Jahan Dotson. There's probably more that I'm missing here. Love that list of Sky Moore, Treylon Burks. There's a ton of second-year receivers that just are so good. And then the tight end that's going to shock everybody is going to be, if it's not Dallas Goedert, it's going to be Luke Musgrave. So we'll say that. That's what I was thinking. Take CMC and then just hammer 2 receivers. I think Rashee Rice probably won't be on a lot of my redraft teams because I'd rather, if I'm drafting a Chief, I want Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore is going to be the consistent player there. It takes a while for these guys to kind of get into the system. So if I'm drafting a Chiefs receiver, it's Sky Moore. I think Rashee Rice, we're going to probably babysit him. In terms of snaps and routes and depth charts here, let's talk about it because I got the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs on the schedule tonight right here. So, yes, we're drafting Mahomes. Yes, we're drafting Kelsey. I'm drafting Pacheco. I do think Pacheco looks better in a half PPR or standard league. I still like him in PPR, but he does have a little bit less value because he's not really a big pass catcher. The Chiefs do carry 3 running backs now. McKinnon, PPR only. I'm not dabbling with him in half PPR standard. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not a bad last pick of your draft either if you want to just pencil him in. So this is how I think the order of the receivers is going to go. MVS is going to lead the team in routes run snaps, not in targets. Kelsey's going to lead the team in targets, but we're just talking receivers here. Sky Moore is going to be the guy that leads them in receptions and targets for the wide receiver position. MVS is still that deep ball guy. He's going to be on the field a lot. They paid him too much money to not play him. Now, Kadarius Toney, I simply do not draft Kadarius Toney. I know Justin in the chat loves Kadarius Toney on the bench here. I don't know where he gets drafted, but I find myself just not excited. Like, he's wide receiver 46. I'm taking Sky Moore, Treylon Burks. I'm taking Elijah Moore. I'm taking some other guys in that area over him. I just don't want to babysit him. I don't trust him to stay healthy. I don't trust him to get a lot of snaps on the field. So I do think week 1, you're probably going to see Richie. I'd rather have Richie James over Rashee Rice on my fantasy teams this year. I think he's a trusted veteran. He plays special teams. I know he's going to be up for the roster every week. So last pick on your bench, take Richie James. I think Rashee Rice is nice, but it's going to take some time, and I just don't want to babysit. But you got to like the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs are going to ball this year. Allen Hurts round 3. I have no problem. Taking Jalen Hurts, Allen, or Mahomes anytime is never a bad idea. Now the Raiders, guys. the second worst schedule in the NFL this year. I am not excited about the Raiders. I think Josh Jacobs is okay at ADP. I think Devontae Adams is fine. Otherwise, like, I really don't need a Raider on my team. Jimmy Garoppolo is barely usable in a Superflex league. Jacoby Myers is maybe a guy that I'd put on my bench. But other than that, guys, like, I think I'm just staying away from the Raiders. I don't trust the vibes here. Took forever to pay Josh Jacobs. Devontae Adams was mad at management. And if Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, like, Aiden O'Connell's cool, but we still don't know anything about him as a player. So I'm pumping the brakes on the Raiders. The strength of schedule tells me to stay away. I still like Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams, but where these guys are being drafted, like, instead of Devontae Adams, like, yeah, I'll take CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown if I can, or I might take Garrett Wilson in a full PPR league. I might take Amon-Ra St. Brown, or you look at the running backs there. But let's finish up. We got two more teams, guys. So I think next year, what we saw with Sky Moore is they threw way too much at him last year. And Sky Moore was still a project. I think Rashee Rice is a little bit more polished as a route runner coming out. I think it's going to be too up and down for Rashee Rice. And they just, honestly, the Chiefs have like 6 receivers, and they like all of them. They're going to play all of them. So I do think Rashee Rice in dynasty formats next year we'll get a better evaluation of him. We just want to see him make plays when his name is called. And maybe he's one of those wide receivers that get more opportunity as the season goes on. But again, you're gonna have to babysit him on your roster. I'd rather instead of Rashee Rice, give me Jaden Reed, who's the wide receiver 3 for the Packers. I think he could be better than Romeo Doubs. Give me Marvin Mims, who's going to be on the field if Jerry Jeudy can't play. And let's talk about Marvin Mims right now. And I appreciate it, man. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff, guys. We're moving to 1,000 subscribers. Like, we're trying to hit that 1,000 subs before the Kansas City Detroit Lions kickoff. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this Tuesday night. Let's cover the Denver Broncos. Who do you need here? Who do you need on the Denver Broncos, guys? Let's talk about Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. You can draft Javonte Williams. You can plan to have Javonte Williams on your team. You're going to have to spend like a 6th round. Like, he goes way too high right now, but let's see his draft price. Javonte Williams, based on this ADP, is running back 28. He's got a 58 next to his name. So I'm okay with a 6th round pick, maybe, but I'm not starting him week 1. I think that's a bad idea. I think Samaje Perine's the guy you want in your lineup week 1. But to be honest, we're probably not starting the Broncos week 1 running backs anyways. So the way that I'm playing it is, if I draft Javonte Williams, I'm going to grab like Jamal Williams, who's going to start for 3 games. I'm going to grab another running back like Brian Robinson or something and start that guy first. And let's let the Broncos tell us how healthy Javonte Williams is. If they're gonna come out and give him 15 carries week 1 and there's no restrictions on him, then it looks really good. But if they come out and they give Perine 15 and they give Javonte 6 carries, that's a problem. So I'm cautiously optimistic that Javonte Williams is a guy that could be, come November, December, like, he could be a guy that we really want on our fantasy teams. But you have to make a draft plan that makes sense. I drafted in a league with a friend, and we drafted Javonte Williams like in the 6th or 7th round, and then we grabbed Isaiah Pacheco a round or 2 later to be our starter running back too. So we don't even need Javonte in our starting lineup. I think that's the way you draft him. Honestly, you can draft both, because I think when Jerry Jeudy got hurt with the hammy, we don't know if he's going to play week 1, but my instant reaction was Broncos are going to run the shit out of the ball. Like, that's what they want to do. They're going to use 2 backs. They're just going to pound the ball. So Perine, definitely a sleeper I want on my on my bench here. He could be your RB3 or 4. I'm grabbing Perine because he's going way too cheap. He's all the way down here, RB38. Like, he's going to be a top 30 running back, I think, by the end of the year. And even if Javonte's healthy, man, they're going to keep using both running backs. That's what Sean Payton does. Russell Wilson doesn't need to be on my team in a 1 QB league, but I think he's a super flex only guy for me. Honestly, I'm pretty nervous about Jerry Jeudy, and his ADP has not fallen enough for me to start clicking on him. Like, he's still being drafted. He's being drafted. I guess they have a 72 next to his name here. So he's like at the end of the round 6 or end of round 6 is kind of where he's being drafted right now. I think in my terms here, I'd give me George Pickens, Mike Williams, Ayuk. I'm taking other guys in the Jerry Jeudy range. So guess what? I'm going to make him red. Sutton, I'm fine with Sutton. He's like literally the only healthy veteran receiver they got. He can be your number 3 or number 4 wide receiver. And it was looking really good for Judy. It sucks, man. He had the mini breakout at the end of last year. Russell Wilson put some good games together with him at the end of the season, but now make Judy yellow, man. We'll make him yellow. But honestly, Marvin Mims is like one of the best rookie stash picks you can make. Marvin Mims reminds me of like a Brandon Cooks type, a guy that could blow the top off the defense. He could jive with Russell Wilson, and he could do like a Tyler Lockett impression. We all thought Jerry Jeudy was Tyler Lockett last year, but Marvin Mims can do that. And honestly, I think if Jerry Jeudy can't play week one, Marvin Mims is locked into the second wide receiver role. And even if Jeudy plays, like Mims is the number 3 receiver. So he's not going to come off the field a ton as a rookie. And he's a guy that could just get better and better as the season goes on. So one of the best late round picks you can make is Marvin Mims. Put him on your bench. All right, all good. We're back, fellas. But we got Greg Dulcich here that I was just going to mention. He's fine as a tight end too. I'm not going to start him week 1. They did let go of Alberto Quegmanam, which is a nice little win for Greg. But overall, I'm not. No, I hit on my mouse. I accidentally hit the back button on my mouse, so it moved my screen back, unfortunately. But we're all good here. Let me get caught up here on the comments here. Yeah, I think that injury to Devontae was so horrendous. Yeah, that was a multi-ligament injury, which is scary. It's super scary when you tear the MCL and the ACL. Like, that's the worst kind that you could have. Breece Hall only had the ACL, but Javonte's ahead of Breece Hall. So, and yeah, man, I think at this point, that's why I did part 1 non-live, because it does. I'm able to just power through it, but the AFC West, man, is one of the juiciest divisions in fantasy football. Like, I gotta give it good time here, because we all care about these teams. Like the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos are probably 3 of the most important teams in fantasy football this year. But we're gonna finish up with the Chargers, guys. My QB that I want in all my drafts is Justin Herbert. I think he's gonna throw for almost 5,000 yards, and he's got a good chance to lead the league in yards, completions, touchdowns. Like, this new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, he gave Dak Prescott like a QB3 season back in 2019. Like, Dak Prescott was on fire, and I think Justin Herbert's much more talented. And honestly, this offense with Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, so much talent. Love Justin Herbert. My preference at QB is one of you guys mentioned like wanting to get like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts as your QB. I like waiting till round 5 to get Justin Herbert, because tell me other players that are like locked in round 5 that are like hits, like super smash hits. You know, round 3, I can still, like, if I'm taking a quarterback round 3, I'm passing up some really good wide receivers or running back opportunities. Whereas round 5, like, Justin Herbert sticks out to me round 5. So I love him as my QB1. I think he could be a top 3 QB this year, and he's being drafted outside the top 5. So super excited about that. Eckler, yes. For me, it goes JJ, Chase, CMC, Eckler. Those are the top 4 picks this year in full PPR. We could worry about Eckler, but in a non-PPR format, I'm not super excited about. But full PPR, Eckler still got it. He's a top 2, top 3 running back this season, so we'll make him green. Josh Kelly's the handcuff, but you don't need to draft him. I'm excited about Keenan Allen. I do think, Keenan Allen's numbers at the end of last year were unbelievable. He was like a top 10 wide receiver when he got back healthy. I think the knock on him is that he's injury prone, but he's really not. Like, if you look back at his career, yeah, he missed like 1 full season and then half of another season. But up until last year, he played like 4 straight full seasons. So he's not injury prone. He's really good. Sounds like he's having a great camp. I love Keenan Allen, and for where Keenan's being drafted, I'd rather have Keenan Allen than DJ Moore. I think it's a mistake to have DJ Moore above Keenan Allen. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I'd rather have Keenan Allen over Amari Cooper. I might take Keenan Allen over T. Higgins, and I'm definitely taking Keenan Allen over Deebo Samuel. In full PPR formats, yes. I think Keenan Allen's like wide receiver 15 or 16 in my rankings. Mike Williams is one of my favorite value picks. where he's being drafted in these rankings is way too low. Again, we're talking about a 5,000 passing yard offense, and Mike Williams, if he stays healthy, like dude could catch 10 touchdowns in this year and go for 1,200 yards. I love Mike Williams. His positional value looks best as a wide receiver 3. And Quentin Johnston, man, I think I'm going to put him on my do not draft list because Joshua Palmer is the wide receiver 3. Quentin Johnston was unable to beat him out, so pour some cold water on Quentin Johnston. He's not a rookie we're drafting. You actually could put Josh Palmer at the end of your bench in a redraft league, and if anything happens to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, that's going to move Josh Palmer up to wide receiver 2. And then Everett, tight end 2, I'm fine with him. I think he's a decent opportunity there to stash. But whew, we did it. All 32 teams. If you guys missed the beginning part of the show, I'll kind of just do a recap. I'll just kind of leave this up on the screen for you guys to look at real quick. I made, for the Ravens, I did Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews as my targets. Let me do one more zoom out. The Browns, I made Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, David Njoku as my targets. The Bengals, I did Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Higgins as my targets. The Steelers, I did Pickett, Warren, Deontay, Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth as my targets. NFC North, we did Fields, Herbert, Roshan, and DJ Moore. Packers are lit up green here. Love, Jones, Watson, Reed, and Musgrave. I love grabbing one of these guys on the end of my bench in drafts right now. The Lions are Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, and Amon-Ra. The Vikings are just Kirk, Ty Chandler, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. And then we'll cover I'll go over the Easts real quick, and then we'll get out of here for the evening, guys. But Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Darren Waller, Sam Howell, Brian Robinson, Gibson, and Jahan Dotson. Or Jahan Dotson's my dude. Dak, Tony, CeeDee Lamb, Cooks, and Jake Ferguson. The number one, that's the answer to the question. Where's that question? I'm trying to find that question that we had. It was a great question, too. It was an unbelievable question. Where was it? Was it just killer? I think he ducked out. Absolutely love Jake Ferguson as my number one sleeper. Marvin Moms is back. Maybe at the end of the year, but I think Josh Palmer is just, he's not great, but he's good enough where, like, if Quentin Johnston's behind in the playbook or the routes or anything like that, and like he's played with Justin Herbert for 2 years now, so I think it's going to take some time for Quentin to surpass Palmer, but wouldn't surprise me if QJ makes some big plays. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, give me Palmer at the end of the bench, kind of thing. Ferguson's my favorite sleeper. Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Goddard are my Eagle targets. And then we'll finish up here with the AFC East targets. Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Brees, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, Josh Allen, James Cook, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid. And then Ramondre is the only New England Patriot. But guys, that's it for me. We went over an hour today. This was a lot of fun. You guys can go back and watch it if you're just joining us now. But I went through all 32 teams. I highlighted players that I liked in green, players that I'm open to drafting in orange, and then I made guys that I wasn't drafting. I made them red. So go play the red light, green light game. Watch the video. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, and football is on next weekend, guys. We're almost there. Tomorrow night, we're doing a doubleheader live stream event. We're doing our usual ESPN mock draft, 6 p.m. Central Time. If you guys want to join that, join our Discord. I'm probably going to post a link somewhere. There might be a link in the description right now, but join the Discord. That's where I post the link to get into that draft if you want to draft with us. And then that's at 6 p.m. Central Time. And then on 8 p.m. Central Time, we're doing a live Yahoo standard draft with Harris and a couple other people that watch the show. So 2 live streams tomorrow night, 1 mock, 1 real draft. So take it easy, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace.